I don't know about you, but whenever I hear about these game streaming apps that are popping up on Android and other devices, all I can think about is the potential for these apps on the Switch. The whole reason that I put Android on my Switch back in September was in the hopes that eventually one day I'll be able to play Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 games on my Nintendo Switch. Wouldn't that be a neat thing to try? Wouldn't that be a neat thing to see? I've seen other people get pretty close, but the reality is that it just doesn't work the way that I'd had hoped. Sure, it's technically possible to play some new or next-gen games on the Switch, but is it practical for someone like me to pull off? Someone who doesn't have a comp sci degree and who has very little patience. Try again later, please. So I've been working on this video for a few weeks now. I accidentally wiped my micro SD card off of my Switch that had Android on it, so I had to do the whole process all over again. There was a day where I spent 8 hours putting Android back on my Switch. I'm still running High Sierra on my Hackintosh. And I can't update oh! This is good. I can't update Premiere. It's not that the process is particularly involved, it's just that every step takes so long. And you frequently have to repeat the process over and over again if there's any random errors. And even when everything works perfectly, the whole Android OS is so sluggish on here that it's painfully slow to even open an app. I could press a menu option and then just play a round of Smash before the system could catch up. Not to mention that every single time you turn the system on, you have to have an RCM jig on the right Joy-Con slot. You also have to have a payload injector of some sort to inject the Android bootloader, if you will. So basically, I just leave it on and plugged in all the time, like it's a phone that's just asleep. Anyway, I downloaded all the Remote Play apps like Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Remote Play, PlayStation Remote Play, and even Stadia. Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Remote Play connected, I was able to load games and the Joy-Cons even worked to control the game. Success! No, it was abysmally slow. Even if you could get it to work for just a few seconds, the connection would time out shortly after. It's not worth ever doing ever. PlayStation Remote Play requires a DualShock 4 to be connected to even open up the app at all. A DualShock 4 requires Android 10 or later, and unfortunately, this is only Android 8. People have gotten Android 10 to work on a Nintendo Switch, but it looks like you have to compile it yourself, and that. It's also not guaranteed to be a stable build. Only Android 8 is widely available to us plebs via the Switch Root project. And lastly, there's Google Stadia. While I was working on this video, Nintendo released a video where he got Cyberpunk to work on his Nintendo Switch via Google Stadia. So I know that it's possible, but for me, Google Stadia wouldn't run any game at all because the Nintendo Switch is not a supported Android device. During the Android install, I had the option to force the Switch to mimic an NVIDIA Shield tablet, but I opted against it because I'm an idiot. I decided it wasn't worth the hassle of uninstalling and reinstalling Android for the 12th time on my Switch, so I decided to just cancel the whole thing. The fun part would have been playing Xbox and PlayStation games on your Nintendo Switch anyway, so I decided to scrap the whole video, and that week I talked about things to do with your brand new PlayStation 5. And you know what? That video actually ended up doing pretty good. Anyway, this idea has been haunting me ever since. I know that there's things that I haven't tried yet, and I know that it would run like absolute ass, but at least I would be able to say that I got to play Call of Duty or Cyberpunk on my Switch, you know? So on New Year's, we had a little bit of a New Year's party over on Twitch, and we had a bunch of people hanging out in the Discord, and Kevin Kenson was there, and somehow we got to talking about remote streaming on the Nintendo Switch, and he said that he got PlayStation Remote Play to work. And I said, no, you didn't, Kevin. Show me the receipts. All right, I didn't say that. It went more like this. I was already working on a video trying to get remote streaming from Xbox and PlayStation to work on the Switch through Android. And spoiler alert, none of it works. So after you get it all set up,
It's awful, but I've done it because we got Android running on the Switch, and then I just used PlayStation Remote Play. I mean, it didn't work good. It was an awful.
So wait,
experience.
how'd you get Remote Play to work? Because you need DualShock 4, and that can't connect with the Android that I have currently.
Yes, but I remember we got around that somehow because I think part of the joke was that we were playing PlayStation games on a Switch using an Xbox One controller, and everyone was like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Oh.
We might have hardwired it into the Switch. And to be fair, the internet in that particular office sucks, and so I think it could actually be a little better if I was like in a different office because the Wi-Fi in there was awful.
PS Streamer.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't That's right. It wasn't Remote Play. It was an unofficial PlayStation Streamer.
That explains everything. So it turns out Remote Play does work, just not through Sony's own Remote Play app. Now I'm invested again, and I must try it. So here we go again, spending another few hours trying to put Android back on my Switch. This time, I'm going to make sure that it's spoofing an NVIDIA Shield because I might want to try that Google Stadia eventually, but first we're going to try this PlayStation Remote Play. Or I'm sorry, P-Streamer app. That doesn't fucking work, because it only works for PlayStation 4. So, there goes that whole idea. I tried doing it for PlayStation 5. I had faith when it allowed me to type in the link code, but that was just wishful thinking. But this gave me the opportunity to try Stadia again. Like I said, I installed the Shieldfire package this time. That's gonna make the Android OS think that it's an NVIDIA Shield. And guess what? That didn't work either, because this whole process is a hot mess. The Switch still thinks it's a Switch, and it doesn't run Stadia games at all. It just locks you out. I'll be honest though, after trying Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Remote Play on this thing and seeing how terrible those ran, I have very little faith that Google Stadia would run good on this thing at all. The videos that I've seen that have Stadia running on here barely show any actual verifiable gameplay footage that are in portable mode on the Switch, so you can tell that it's actually running on the Switch. So, if you're gonna hack your Switch in the hopes that it'll open you up to a whole new world of game streaming possibilities, don't get your hopes up. At the very most, it plays some retro games pretty good. You can put RetroArch on it, and that's okay. I covered that in my last video on the topic. But there is a glimmer of hope for game streaming some more powerful games on this thing, and that is Steam Link. Steam Link actually works very well. Of course, you have to have a computer that can run these games, and at that point, it kind of defeats the purpose. And it's actually pretty easy to set up. Maybe you can find a use for having a somewhat portable game streaming option. Somewhat portable meaning you still need a home computer and you still need an internet connection in order to use it. This worked surprisingly well when I tried this with Fall Guys, but now I guess to drive that point home, I'll have to try it with Cyberpunk. The Joy-Cons have to be connected via Bluetooth, but once that's done, Steam Link picks it up right away. The one hiccup Cyberpunk has is this weird splash screen that forces you to click play with a mouse, but after that, the Joy-Con work perfectly. The button prompts even match up to the buttons on the Joy-Con, and it runs just fine. I mean, as good as Cyberpunk can run on my computer. Oh, cool. Ultra, yeah, that's exactly what I want. But the streaming runs good. It is running on a local connection though, so it's not exactly straining. I would never, ever opt to do it this way over just playing it on my Xbox Series X. If I ever think to myself, I wish I could have Cyberpunk but portably, I would just play something else. I don't think this is a practical use for your Nintendo Switch. I also wouldn't recommend doing this to your main Switch anyway, because there is potential for a catastrophic failure. It's not like Nintendo's gonna find out and brick your Switch. It runs just fine alongside Nintendo's own OS. It's just that whenever you're flashing an OS like Android onto your device, there's potential to just brick the thing. So already, you probably want to have a second Switch that's even capable of being hacked. It needs to be an early version of the Switch that can be easily exploited. Instead of buying a second Switch for this, you can get a Retroid Pocket Go. It's $80 and it plays retro games just fine. But that's only for retro games. If you want some game streaming, which is probably the reason you clicked on this video in the first place, you should just get yourself a cheap Android phone if you don't already have one. If you do have one already, get yourself a Razer Kishi or a Jungle Cat for just $100. This will turn your Android phone into what is essentially a Nintendo Switch. I have a video where I did that, and Xbox Game Pass runs great. Stadia also works great on there. PlayStation Remote Play still requires a DualShock 4, so it kind of ruins the form factor, but maybe we'll be able to get around that one of these days. That's for another video. This actually works awesome. Oh god, I forgot how to play this. So, is it possible to hack your Switch to play next-gen games? Yes. Is it practical? Absolutely not. There's a lot of headache involved that could be alleviated by just doing this any other way. But if you want to play around and try it for yourself, then go nuts. I tried to warn you that you're doing this to yourself. So anyway, what do you guys think about putting Android on your Switch and stream some games onto there? Is there any use case where you can find this to be useful to you? Obviously, it would be great if Game Pass and Remote Play and stuff like that was already native on the Switch. If Microsoft brought Game Pass, that would be amazing. But that would just be as simple as downloading the app. Putting a hacked version of Android on this thing makes it a living nightmare. Anyway, leave it in the comments below. Add me on Twitter. And you know, all this other social media garbage. A lot of the footage you saw here was streamed over on twitch.tv/wolfden. I streamed myself, you know, putting Android on here and stuff. If I'm able to stream myself making videos, I will do that. We also have 2 other YouTube channels, Wolfden Clips and Wolfden Podcast. You should check out yourself. But of course, the most important thing that you can do here to help support this channel is just subscribe and make sure you're subscribed. Chances are you're not subscribed and you think you are. Make sure you see if that thing's red, then you're not subscribed. And share this video with a friend who maybe likes to tinker. Maybe you can convince them to do this to your Switch. Again, it's probably not worth it. Forget it. Forget I said anything. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good week.